Welcome to the Celebrate Arkansas podcast. I'm Jocelyn Murphy, the managing editor, here with our director of growth and development, Alexa Williams. And today we're speaking with the Arkansas Climbers Coalition, Andrew Blann, the vice president, and Jane Lascon, one of the directors of the board. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we were talking about this conversation before and how I was really looking forward to it because Alexa does do some climbing. And so more than me. And I have never done any. I've done at a climbing gym, so inside one time in my whole life. So I know nothing about the Arkansas Climbers Coalition and climbing and bouldering and all the things at Arkansas. So I've been really looking forward to this conversation. So thank you guys for being here.
Well, thanks for having us. We're really excited to be here.
Yes. So the Arkansas Climbers Coalition is a nonprofit.
Yes.
Tell us a little about what the organization is, why you felt this organization needed a presence here in Arkansas, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. So the Arkansas Climbers Coalition, we're a 501c3 that was formed in 2008. And essentially, we kind of represent the interest of climbers that climb in Arkansas and that live in Arkansas. Our mission is to protect and preserve climbing areas, and that comes in a lot of forms. We work with lots of different land management agencies, public lands, Forest Service, Park Service, or different cities that might have climbing on their property, private landowners. We do a lot of community outreach as well. So really, if something is going on in climbing that's kind of community-based or has to do with keeping climbing areas open or taking care of them or opening new ones, then we're usually involved in it.
Okay. Yeah. Because I think if you're not plugged in and don't know about all of it going on, or all of the resources and locations and everything, I've never given any thought to, if I want to go climbing, see, what are the rules? Where can I go? And so do you kind of help maybe newcomers to the sport kind of find all of that information too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think recently we just started the Gym to Crag sessions. So a lot of those have been one of our board members, JD, he goes around the various gyms around the state and gives a layup what ARCC does and how it is between first climbing in a gym and then transitioning to the crag. And then we also do a lot of tabling events at the gyms to just talk about what ARCC does. They just see this giant tent with the climber logo and stuff like that, and they see this box of silver bags and things, and those are our WAG bags and promoting things. So those are those little conversation pieces that start what do you guys do? And then we just start talking to them and then letting them know what we're doing. And then when we have these events, we have these trail days and social events or social meetups and things, it's just a whole bunch of people that love to go out climbing and want to make sure the climbing areas are clean and pretty and safe. Yeah. So we also do a lot of trail building and rebolting and everything like that. So it's a lot to take in when you talk to someone at an ARCC tent or at a tabling event. What do we not do is almost something a better way of saying it. It's anything involved with climbing and the land, we're on it and we love it. So
yeah. Well, you said rebolting. So, again, this is going to show how little information I have. So that's talking about the trail that you're climbing when you're out, and you have bolted things into the rocks so that the climber can clip in and stuff like that.
Right.
You were telling me about that. I didn't know. I just thought it was all free climbing if you see people out climbing.
Not everyone can be Alex Honnold.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. I didn't know that this stuff existed like that.
Yeah, and I would say a lot of people don't. Pretty much everyone these days, you get started climbing in a gym. If you're in Northwest Arkansas or really anywhere in Arkansas, there's probably a climbing gym nearby. Most of the major metro areas have at least one. And these days, really anywhere in the country, most people are being introduced to climbing in the gym. And you might not even go outside for the first couple years that you climb. Some people will climb in the gym for years, which is amazing. I got my start climbing in a climbing gym in Kansas City. So, we try and help, like Jane was talking about, our Gym to Crag program, helping to educate those new climbers about how to interact in the outdoor space and climbing, and some best practices and approaches for when you're going out into the woods and out into the Ozarks to go climbing for the first time.
Yeah. If you don't mind, and Alexa, I'd like you to answer this too. Can you guys share, all of you, a little about how you very first got into or interested in climbing?
Sure.
You guys want me to start?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
I got into climbing because I had a very close friend that had been climbing in a gym in Springdale for a really long time. And I went along with him one day, actually on kind of a business meeting, to get introduced to the owner of the gym. And so while I was there, the owner asked if I wanted to try climbing, and my friend encouraged me to give it a shot. And I was a little, skeptical if I was going to be able to do that successfully or even moderately successfully, but I ended up having a lot of fun. And I've always been a very competitive person by nature, and I wouldn't consider myself super athletic, but I liked the idea of something that was athletic, but it also required, some technical skill. And there was a very clear, winning, if you make it to the end of the route, then you win. And that worked really well for my brain and my mentality. And so that was kind of my first introduction to climbing, which was also in a gym. Since then, I have been climbing in several gyms in the area. I live in Fayetteville, so I climb at Boulders and Brews a lot. And I work in Bentonville, so I climb Bentonville quite a bit too. And so I've been climbing now for, I guess, a little over 2 years. I have started trying to climb more outdoors because, like you guys have kind of talked about, it's a totally different kind of world. There's a lot more involved, obviously a lot more risk because you're outside. There's not big gym floors. And of course, if you're sport climbing, then you have to trust that the bolts are maintained, which is one of the things you guys do. And just kind of learning to trust whoever you're climbing with because it's a partner system, all of those things. So it's been a lot of fun. I got my husband into climbing with me too. So now we go out and do that together. And it's been really fun to not only have something that's athletic that we can do together, we can be outdoors, which is great. That's something I really enjoy. But it's also, it's a challenge. It's something that you can continually learn new techniques, try new routes, work on skills. And so there's continuous improvement involved too, which I personally really like. So that's kind of my short story as to how I got into climbing and how I got familiar with the ARCC as well.
Nice.
What about you guys?
Well, I started climbing, I think, off and on, 10 years ago, I guess. And I started in Phoenix. One of my friends just asked me to go, hey, let's go check out a rock gym. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I loved climbing, trees and, ladders and, running around the roof as a kid. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go try out climbing. And I got hooked, immediately. This was the coolest thing ever. It's nothing like a competition or it can be competitive, but it's really you against the rock. So it's completely you get what you put into it. And that was really rewarding. And I actually met my husband while rock climbing too. So we met at a rock gym in Phoenix, and then about 8 years ago, I moved here to Arkansas, and was just blown away with just how much climbing there actually was here. So met some friends that also really loved climbing, and then I think our first 2 years here, we got into Horseshoe Hell, on the lottery system.
Yeah.
And so that was just the cool, one of the coolest events we'd ever been to, and made it. It's just been super fun. And then I saw the ARCC and just wanted to get more involved with them. And yeah, it's just been awesome. Being outside and climbing is amazing. The community here is just absolutely wonderful. I set at Ozark Climbing Gym. So the Ozark Climbing Gym is my bouldering gym, I guess, that I go climbing at a lot. And then, just love the community and love the outside. And there's just so much climbing out here and rocks everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Andrew?
So I got started climbing, I guess, be almost 20 years ago now when I was living in Kansas City. That's where I grew up. And when I was in high school, I had a friend who moved away to Arizona and got into climbing and was recommended that another friend and I found rock climbing. You guys should try it. You would love it. And we went to a climbing gym and we did one route and we were both like, okay, this is what we're doing now. This is the new sport. We're not doing anything else. It's 100% all in. We're rock climbers now. And we were fortunate to meet some folks at this gym. It's called Monster Mountain in Kansas City. It's in the back of this in the back of a gymnastics facility. And it's from probably the mid 90s or something. It's kind of old school. But we met some people that were climbing there, and they're like, oh, well, we go to Arkansas to go climbing all the time. Do you want to come? And we were both 18, and some, people have been climbing for 30 years. They're like, yeah, come down with us. And we're like, okay. And we hopped in the car, and they took us down here they took us to Sam's Throne, which is out in Newton County, kind of out to the southeast of the Jasper area. And it totally blew my mind. That existed. I've been coming to Arkansas my whole life in the Beaver Lake area, but I'd never explored that part of the Ozarks until I found climbing, and it just beyond just climbing, I was totally hooked. And then I moved down to Fayetteville in probably about 12 years ago now, something like that, and I've just continued climbing and exploring all over Arkansas and the Ozarks. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. We recently, one of the people that we spoke with for our July issue, which is our Outdoors in Arkansas issue, we were speaking with him about the biking community, but he said, I actually started coming to Arkansas 20 years ago for the climbing. And he was talking about out in Newton County. He said, I think he said at one point, it's some of the best sport climbing you'll find in the country, or he might have said, I'm not going to say he said the world because I can't remember for sure, but he said definitely the country.
Is it Andy?
Yeah, it was Andy. Yes.
I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, especially if you're talking about one of the, I wouldn't pick anywhere other than Arkansas for someone to learn how to sport climb. The quality of beginner and moderate climbing in this part of the Ozarks is amazing. It's better than most places that you'll go to. A lot of the times, beginner routes aren't really, they're honestly not as fun. It's some of the harder stuff in other places. When you go out west, they're kind of scary and the holds aren't very comfortable, but here it's perfect sandstone that's just perfectly suited for making you fall in love with climbing.
Yeah. It's the best, if you could transport what a gym would be and just make it outside, the rock holds, the rock formations, a lot of them are called chicken heads because it's literally grabbing a chicken head because they're big and juggy. So it's very, like Andrew said, very beginner friendly, super comfortable, and it's just really, really fun.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask is what makes it better or ideal? Is it just the holds? Is it the landscape? Is it the type of rock? Is it all of it?
All of it.
Yeah, all of it for sure.
The community, I
think it all plays a part. But at the end of the day, the rock here is really high quality.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the difference. At the end of the day, we have really high quality sandstone that is just perfectly suited for climbing. Okay. And that's what really sets the Ozarks apart from other places.
And as someone who's from Arkansas originally and is sort of new to climbing in general, I really got introduced to the ARCC at this year's climbing festival. And I went and attended, and it was very eye-opening that Arkansas was able to draw in people from literally all over the country to come in and camp out in tents, which it was very windy and very muddy, but at Horseshoe Canyon Ranch for a weekend. And it was really cool to see not only the Arkansas climbing community come together and kind of rally around this cause and this activity and being outdoors, but also that our state was able to pull people in that are climbing enthusiasts across the country. And it was a great opportunity to not only meet a lot of really cool people, but of course, learn more about climbing, get more comfortable climbing outside, which is something I am personally doing. And it was really neat to see that. So I think that's a testament to like what you said, Andrew, that it is some of the best climbing in the state. And so with that being said, you guys kind of have a really big job to make sure that that's accessible and safe and show people what is available.
Well, it's really cool because that festival, that's only our third annual one. And yeah, you're right. We had, I think it was like over 420 people from across like 17 different states, like all just converging into this little place in Arkansas. And I think this particular festival, the Arkansas Climbers Festival, is very unique because we're very geared towards like family friendly. A lot of the festivals, they usually aren't, they can't bring their kids or whatever, but like there were so many kids there. We even had like an Easter egg hunt like on Sunday for the kiddos and stuff. And it's just a very nice, like open, beginner friendly event even because we have a lot of clinics there that, you know, people can come out, even if it's their very first time climbing. They can go out and get out on some like rock outside and just start climbing and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I always, you know, a lot of the times people will say, oh, well, Arkansas Climbers Coalition, I've got to be from Arkansas to be involved in this organization. And I think, you know, along the lines of where people are coming from the festival, you know, anyone that climbs in Arkansas is an Arkansas climber. And this is the home, you know, crag is what climbers call a climbing area. Arkansas is kind of the home crag for anyone within like a 7-hour radius of here that's a rock climber. So, I mean, there's kind of, you think about the geography of the U.S. and there's like, the Ozarks were kind of this island out here in the middle surrounded by, you know, kind of the plains and the Midwest and like the deep South where there aren't necessarily mountains. So we draw people from all over come to Arkansas to get outside and experience the climbing here.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because I think a lot of, still, I've lived here almost 15 years and still meet people coming to the state for the first time, or, you know, they've been here a handful of times, but they're like, I'm shocked every time at how beautiful it is and the landscape and the geography. And I think people still write off Arkansas in a lot of ways and are pleasantly surprised by a lot of things when they come to visit.
Yeah. And that's one of the things we highlighted in our Outdoors in Arkansas issue, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you guys here in July, is because we obviously are very proud of the state in general for a lot of reasons. But in July, we really try to focus on outdoor recreation and things that Arkansas offers that a lot of people kind of overlook, but is one of my favorite reasons to be in Arkansas and to get outside and do things like that. So I really appreciate the opportunity to go climb and get outside and try new things. And overall, I don't know, I'm a fangirl. So.
Yeah. Many of my friends that when I talked to back in Phoenix, I was like, well, I'm moving to Arkansas. And they're like, why are you going to Arkansas? And I was like, well, I love the outdoors. And it's basically like an outdoor enthusiast, like, dream here. And you really have to see it to like believe it. Like you said, like, yeah, you're amazed at just all the stuff that you can do outside, the bike trails, the climbing, the kayaking, like, and it's just so much fun.
No, it's amazing. Can I go back to asking another novice question?
Yeah.
We've said some terminology and some different types of climbs. You know, you said bolting, and we've talked about bouldering and free climb. Can you talk about some of the different types of climbing? Is it like based on the environment you're in or the equipment that you're using? What are some of the different types of climbing people can do?
It's a little bit of everything. So for outdoor climbing, at least in Arkansas, kind of broken into 3 categories. 2 of those are going to be you're using a climbing rope and you're climbing, a cliff anywhere from 35 to 100 feet tall in Arkansas. And within that category of rope climbing, you have sport climbing, which is when there's a bolt that's in the rock face and you're leading, which means you're bringing the rope up with you as you go, and you clip in a piece of gear, a quick draw into a bolt. And if you fall, that's what's that and your climbing partner, they're belaying you, which means they're like in control of the rope, holding you if you fall. They're going to keep you off the ground. So you kind of go up these, following the bolts on what's called a route, or route is what climbers call it. And so that's sport climbing. You have trad climbing, which is a similar thing, but instead of having bolts already in the wall, there's probably a crack or more natural features where you bring your gear with you on your harness and you place it as you go. And then your partner will follow you, meaning they'll come up the rope after you and they'll pull it out of the rock and take it with you. And then there's also top roping, which is what a lot of people get started with in the gym, which you can also top rope outside, and it's super fun. And so a lot of newer climbers, you start in the gym top roping, you go outside top roping, and then you get into lead climbing, whether that's sport climbing or trad climbing. And then you have bouldering, which is climbing on essentially what it sounds like boulders. You out in the woods and you see giant rocks just like scattered down a hillside. And so it's climbing problems is what they're called, up a boulder, which is usually not that much taller, somewhere in probably the 12 to 18 foot tall range. You bring these things called crash pads with you, which just look like a mattress that you wear on your back. And if you fall, you land on a crash pad. And in Arkansas, that's taking place on boulders and short cliff line. Okay. And we've got really high quality bouldering and trad climbing and sport climbing and top roping all over the state.
Mountain Project has now over 3,000 routes.
Yeah, that sounds right.
There's there's over 1,000 boulder problems and over 2,000 taller routes, I guess. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's constantly growing because people just they're out there. The rock is out there, and sometimes you might not got bushwhacked to find it, but there's new routes being discovered or new rock places and things.
And we kind of talked about free climbing a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think a lot of people think of free climbing as what Alex Honnold is doing when you watch him climb. Yeah, in free solo, but that's actually free soloing. And that's when you're climbing without a rope or any safety gear. Your normal, anything that's your trad climbing and your sport climbing, those are both kind of in the climbing world known as types of free climbing.
Okay.
And so...
Yeah, no, that's. I knew I was gonna.
Oh no, totally.
And probably
it's like a different. It's like a different language for climbers.
Yeah, because I don't know any of it. So
I feel like I'm always learning. So you're not alone.
It sounds like there's a lot to learn.
Yeah,
I think that's maybe part of what can make it seem a little intimidating or a little overwhelming to get into. How do you recommend, or if someone expresses, "Oh, I could be interested in it, but I just don't know how to start," what do you tell those people?
If you're talking to another climber, usually if someone's interested in climbing, I'll be like, I got a free gym pass. You want to come with, and I'll just let you use the gym pass. So a lot of the gyms around Northwest Arkansas or even our state, they'll usually, if someone has a membership, they'll give you 2 guest passes per month or something like that. And that's usually how we bring in our friends or whatever, and just come out climbing. We can show you how to do some routes or this, and it's always nice to climb with someone that knows a little bit, so you can get learn the ropes. But if you're completely new and you're just intimidated and go in there, the gyms there are so accessible and so nice. There's instructors there that you can take classes and just learn immediately. It's really it's a very opening and welcoming environment for climbing, and safety is always the most thing that they are concerned with. You're going to be safe, climbing in a gym. And from there, you just start getting more and more addicted. And then you're I want to go outside. I want to go touch outside rocks and go climb and stuff that.
Yeah. And I know from personal experience too, that most of the gyms have equipment there that you can rent. Whenever you're starting out climbing, there's shoes and chalk and a few other gadgets that you might want. And most gyms are going to have that there for you. So you can walk in with nothing and be ready to
you
give
can
it a
just
shot.
come in off the street, and there's always someone there. There's always kind of an educational component before the gym is ever going to let you start climbing. So it's not, you're not going to walk in and then just like throw you a pair of shoes and say, go figure it out. There's going to be someone there to help educate you and kind of guide you a little bit in the beginning of your climbing journey. And a lot of gyms offer classes as well for someone that wants to get a little bit more into it. There are climbing guides in Arkansas as well for someone that maybe they want to start by just going outside. You can hire a guide that's gone through a lot of training and certification programs with the AMGA, and they'll take you to one of the climbing areas, whether it's somewhere, if you're in Northwest Arkansas, maybe one of our local areas. Some of them will take you further out, but it gives people an opportunity to experience climbing out in the Ozarks.
Yeah. Can you guys talk a little about the mental side of it? And I guess what I'm kind of thinking is, you hear a lot about different types of exercise or sports that people play, the piece where it gets you out of your head, because you out of your head as far as, I'm worrying about the day or I'm stressed about this. You have to focus on this thing in front of you to do it well. And this strikes me as something that would take a lot more mental focus than if I get on a treadmill, I can zone out because I'm not going anywhere. This strikes me as something that would take a lot of mental focus and maybe therefore could be a really good outlet for something like getting you out of your head or out of your day-to-day. Can you talk about that side of it a little bit?
With everything, you do get focused on. Sometimes you have good days and bad days climbing, like we call heavy gravity days or whatever. And it's like, oh man, I can't climb this or get up there. But every time if you think that you're going to falling is, I think, the biggest thing. And if you're on top rope versus lead versus bouldering, I think for me, that's always the thing that's in the back of my head. It was like, oh crap, I'm going to fall. I can't fall. I got to hold on or whatever. So sometimes it's between you and the rock, and you can get in that little ego loop of I don't want to fall, but you got to accept it sometimes. They're like, well, falling, and then the more you fall, the more you're, all right, it's okay to keep failing. It's fine, because eventually you're going to get up that rock. You just keep trying at it. So it's a different kind of mental toughness. I don't want to say mental toughness, but it as long as you just keep trying and if you're getting too frustrated with it, then you just have to walk away. And then 2 days later, you walk up it, don't even think about it, your mind's blanking, and then you just send the route. So sometimes if you're thinking too much, you're getting in your own head, you get frustrated, just walk away and then come back to it. And your body knows what to do when you're going up the rock and stuff. So.
Yeah, and I would agree that it definitely, the mental component, I would say, is just as important as the physical one in climbing. It really, it takes all of your focus to hang on to small holds, and you're fighting gravity the whole way. And it's kind of a type of focus that if you've never really climbed before, you might not have ever experienced. I think a lot of people naturally were just kind of evolved to maybe have a fear of heights. It's okay, it's a healthy thing to be afraid of heights. And so I think with a lot of new climbers, it's just finding ways to overcome that. Jane was talking about fears of falling. I think that's something that, that is a mental block that sometimes you have to get through, and just experiencing climbing and experiencing falling and getting used to your equipment and trusting the process and trusting your partners is really important. And then climbers performing at the highest levels, or even when you're just trying something that's at your limit, and let's say you've gotten over the fear of falling, and that's not really something you think about anymore. Climbing is kind of a vertical puzzle that takes, physical fitness, it takes a lot of technique, it takes a lot of just mental focus. And if you aren't engaged 100% when you're trying something that's difficult for you, you'll fail. So You gotta stay engaged with it. It's great. It's something that
Total body exercise.
100%, 100%.
And like on the flip side, like if you, there's so many different types of climbing. Like so, like the bouldering, the top roping, lead, and trad. Sometimes I've had friends who just never wanted to go more than just top rope, and that's totally fine too. Like if you just want to go out and then just hang out with your friends that are like lead climber or whatever, and you're like, I got no interest in leading, but I'll top rope and I'll go climb. Like you're still out there having fun climbing, and that's totally fine too. Like it's just, if you're having fun on the rock and you want to like push yourself to try like something new, then you can learn the skill set to be able to try something new. But if you're totally comfortable with doing what you're doing, then have at it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think what is it? Is it I think it's an Alex Lowe quote that it's the best climber is the one having the most fun.
Yep.
And that's 100% true.
Yeah.
Like with climbing, you can really like climbing, you know, in a sense will like meet you where you are, and you can get what you want out of it as a sport and as an individual. There's a lot of directions that you can take climbing.
Yeah. It seems a lot more accessible than maybe I had this perception of, because it's this thing that like seems like it would take a lot of upper body strength. I don't have a lot of upper body strength, and it's do I go to a gym? Do I go outside? Where do you? So
yeah, I think if you got, you know, if you're on the fence, you're like, oh, I'm not sure about climbing. Maybe I'm interested. It's like find the gym that is closest to you and go. Climbing is a really welcoming community, and I promise that you will find some fun and enjoyment out of climbing. And the gyms are they're great people that are working and running all of those different ones across the state.
Yeah. I want to talk a little more about some of the work that the organization does. Alexa, we were talking the other day about the land component. Do you want to dig into that a little more, some of what you were talking about?
And so you guys are obviously the experts, but I was explaining to Jocelyn that, you know, whenever you're talking about these routes, especially with sport climbing, or getting access for trad climbing or bouldering, whatever that looks like, that there's a lot of coordination that goes into that, whether between private landowners or with the government whenever you're dealing with state parks and things of that nature. So can you kind of explain how you guys do that? Is that a difficult process? Is there like some different things that you would like the general public to know about how you're coordinating all those pieces to make sure that people can go climb and do have access to get in those areas?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. Like we could talk for an entire episode just about that topic easily.
Just about access.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it starts with just relationship building. I think that's, you know, a lot of things that just in general that are happening in the outdoors or conservation or anything like that. It's a lot of it is the relationships that you're building, whether it's a public land manager at the federal level or the state level, or maybe it's a private landowner. It's kind of just having, you know, open conversations about the sport. And, you know, our thing for us is that we want to be allies to everyone. We don't ever want someone to think that like we're forcing climbing on them. You know, we want to help them manage climbing and on their properties, wherever they may be. Probably, you know, from your normal climber, the best thing to do is familiarize yourself with where you're climbing. See if there are any rules that you need to follow while you're out there, and just be a good steward. We preach the leave no trace principles, which is really generally kind of like cleaning up after yourself, cleaning up after other people, making sure that when you're out there having your experience out in nature and in the woods, that your behaviors aren't going to take away from somebody else who's out there trying to do the same thing. And so it's just kind of having an awareness of your impact as an individual when you're out there, and, you know, being just a generally nice person goes a long ways as far as just interacting with the landscape.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then we do. So we work with different organizations or different, you know, individuals, and say one of our more recent things that we've done that has to do with kind of the land component. We opened up a new climbing area on Fitzgerald Mountain in Springdale, and that opened in September of 23, and that was kind of a collaboration with the Trailblazers in Northwest Arkansas and private landowners, and it kind of involved some acquisitions and partnerships, and then developing the area itself and utilizing a lot of community volunteers to kind of help us open that up for the general public to be able to go out there and climb.
Yeah, and it's very, very accessible too. Like, it's super accessible, perfect for like Jim de Crag. Really, if you ever want to go outside, that's an awesome beginner spot to start at. And it's just a 10-minute walk from like the parking lot on like a very easy trail. So there's like over 50.
Yeah, there's like 50 routes over there, from really very beginner to pretty expert.
Yeah,
so
pretty cool.
Really anyone, it's all sport climbing over there.
Yep.
And really any climber is going to find something to do that they're going to enjoy out there.
So that's this brand new thing, and also a really good example too of how the efforts of the ARCC have been a driver for expansion for the community, but also the resources. Can you talk a little more about that too? Just where you said the organization was founded in 2008, just where it has gone since you've both joined, the like I said, that expansion piece, where you're hoping it's continuing to go for the future.
Yeah, so I can speak for myself. I just got involved with the organization just as a volunteer shortly after it was founded, just going to the trail day and working on some erosion control projects, working on some trail project, like moving some brush out of the way, something really, really simple, things like that. And then the more time I climbed in Arkansas, the more involved I wanted to be. And we've kind of modeled we've seen what other climbing groups have done as far as acquiring new areas or opening up access to different areas. Mm-hmm. And when I joined the board 6 years ago now, 5 or 6 years ago now, that's what I really wanted to work on. We're an all volunteer board, so everyone who joins kind of has something that they're interested in usually, and that they would like to put their time into. And so we all collaborate with the organization as a whole. But something personally for me is just access. It's always been something I've enjoyed working on. And it's, like I said, it's about the relationships, but it's identifying the resources that we have. It's knowing where they are. And a lot of it's like engaging the community and getting their buy-in on these projects. We currently have a new one we're working on. We're collaborating with the city of North Little Rock, and we have an MOU with them, and we're going to start working on opening up Burns Park. It's on the north side of the Arkansas River, has kind of the quarry over there, but there's a portion of that property that has really amazing rock, is really suitable for a new climbing area in an urban setting, like right next to a really large population. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of in the beginning stages of engaging all of our partners to make that a reality. And that involves the city, it involves other nonprofits, it's, finding private individuals and companies that want to help us fund the project as well. And so it's kind of a lot of components come together to open up a climbing area.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And then, I guess the other part, like the community aspect, is just getting the resources to be able to have people read about it. I guess a lot of it is the social media and the website aspect and all, just getting the information out there. When people look up an organization, they'll eventually visit a website or pull it up on their phone. And I guess when I joined, I think about 2 years ago, my goal was to try and get the website up to be more modernized, or at least be more ease of use to be able to update things, and there's a little bit more accessible. So modernizing that website and making sure that all of our minutes, all of everything. Like, we try to be very transparent as an organization too. Like, anything that we've done, all of like our minutes are on our website. If you're like a member, you can see like what the ARCC is actually doing. And it is an all volunteer board. So it's like, we do this because we have a passion and love for the community, for the climbing. And so it's just really, really fun. Like, I say fun so much, but like we really enjoy it. And the fact is also building that community, going to these like tabling events. So a lot of these gyms that they have their events, their like socials, we try to get our name out there, because a lot of the work that we do with the trail work and everything, it's not going to happen if we don't have people coming out there helping us. So we are so appreciative like of anyone that comes out to these trail days, because it's a lot of just like moving dirt. Yeah. Moving dirt or like cutting brush. And honestly, you sometimes feel like a little kid again when you go out to some of these trail days, because you're literally just moving dirt, getting your hands dirty, digging like holes to put like a new wag bag post up or something like that. So it's just a whole day of having fun. And then at the end of the day, you sit around a campfire, drink some beer, eat some hot dogs, and like talk about the day.
Like that.
Yeah, like it's super, it's awesome.
Yeah. That sounds really, that it sounds like something that kind of epitomizes a lot of the culture pockets that you can find in Northwest Arkansas, to me, at least. Again, we talk about biking a lot, but I also work a lot with visual artists or musicians or whatever, and the people like building the infrastructure for these groups. And I feel like, we've talked a lot about how inclusive the climbing community is, and everything that you're saying, it just makes it sound fun to be a part of and welcoming. And I feel like you can find that in a lot of pockets of whatever your thing is in Northwest Arkansas. And so, I don't know, I love that part about our culture.
Yeah. Yeah, like the NWA Queers, like climbing group. Like They have like monthly meetups at like so many different gyms like throughout the month, and they're amazing. Like creating that like culture of inclusivity and everything like that.
Yeah. Something for everyone. I know there's yoga groups and women in bouldering and intro to crag climbing, like we've talked about. So I would definitely say from my personal experience, there's something for everybody to get involved, not only in the climbing community, but also in the outdoor recreation community as a whole and with the Climbers Coalition.
Where do you want to point people to keep up with not only what you guys are doing, but also some of that events or those kinds of events where you might have a presence? Where do people need to go to keep up with all of that?
I'd say the best place to start would be our website. It's just arkansasclimbers.org. And then we have a fairly active social media, Facebook, Instagram, especially when it comes to events. You can usually find what we have going on there. I'd say follow us there. Check out our website. People can always just email us. We have a contact page on our website. And then we also have contact info for all of our board members as well. So we usually, as Jane said, we're an all-volunteer board. So it might take us a day or two to respond to you, depending on, maybe we're just like out in the woods climbing. I don't know. But we do get back to everybody, and we love to talk about climbing with people that love climbing or think that they want to get into it. We field questions from landowners who say, hey, I have a cliff on my property. Maybe I want to let people come out here and climb on it. What do I have to do to make that happen? Or would this be a suitable place? And we have board members that go out there, and we'll meet with the landowner and just kind of like talk through what that might look like if it's something that they want to do. Well, that's like another component of what we work on.
And in December, we'll have our trail day, I think.
Yeah, we do our biggest trail day. Yep, first weekend.
First weekend of December.
Okay.
So it will be our big trail day.
Okay.
And then festival in the spring.
Festival every spring.
Yep. All right. April will be our 4th annual.
And then, we do a lot of beyond the gym to crag. We do just different community meetup climbing events at places around town, at different climbing areas, at gyms. So we aren't always asking everyone to just like come out and grab a shovel and dig in the dirt with us. We do actually have fun and like go climbing together as well.
Yeah, just recently, just this past Wednesday, we had our little social meetup pint night at Fossil Cove, and there was a really good turnout of just a bunch of people just hanging out, talking about climbing and drinking.
You were at that, right, Alexa?
Yes, yeah. No, I got to meet Jane prior to this invitation. It was great, like she said, it's the community as a whole is always very welcoming, very inviting. And of course, anytime you're with people that have a shared passion, it's very easy to have a conversation, even if you've never met, like me and Jane, and just, find some common ground, talk about things of common interest, make plans to go out and do something. And for me, making plans to go do something outdoors is always something I look forward to. So it was great. I definitely recommend. And who doesn't love a social meetup at a brewery? So,
yes. Well, it sounds like you guys, the Arkansas Climbers Coalition, are responsible for a lot of things, have your hand in a lot of things, but also a lot of things as far as expanding access and resources like we've been talking about, and maintaining and preserving. And so there's a lot going on with your organization. So I hope that people will seek you out and see what all you have going on, but also a lot going on the social side, and just seems like a lot of opportunities for just fun and hanging out, climbing some rocks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just as a member of Arkansas Climbers Coalition.
Do you think there's anything that there's a lot of pieces there. So is there anything we didn't cover as the person who knows more about climbing than me?
I'm definitely not the expert here, but I think we covered the basics. What I really wanted to introduce was people that don't know what Arkansas offers, what you guys do, because I think it's not only a lot of fun, but it's really important for safety, for access, for expanding outdoor recreation in the state. And so I really appreciate you guys sitting down with us today and telling us more about the coalition, and hopefully this brings some more awareness to all of the great things that you guys are doing and trying to do. And we wish you luck with your new endeavors, and I will definitely see you guys around.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'd love a chance to just talk about rock climbing and introduce new people to it.
Well, that's part of what I'm loving about our new podcast, too, is it's giving us the opportunity to interact with and have some conversations with people that, for whatever reason, maybe it just doesn't work out to get it in the magazine, or it's just a better fit for an in-person conversation. I think it's just another outlet for us to highlight and celebrate all of the great things going on in Arkansas in just a different way. So glad that you guys came in.
We appreciate it. I think it's perfect timing too, because in a week the climbing will be in the Olympics.
Yep.
Again, it'll be the second Olympics that climbing is an official sport. So I think that a lot of people are getting exposed to climbing that have never really thought about it, and realizing, you might be seeing it at this Olympic level, but what you're going to see in the Olympics is really what's happening in climbing gyms around the country. There's an accessible way to go and do that probably in your community that you would.
Yeah. That's another. I'm really glad you brought that up, because I didn't know that, and I'm.
Yeah, I think. I think next week we'll be climbing in the Olympics. So.
There's climbing gyms. There's 3 here in Northwest Arkansas. There's one down in Fort Smith, Little Rock, and there's one in Forest Gate. There's another one.
There's Conway. Conway, Fort Smith, Little Rock, handful in Northwest Arkansas, and then Jonesboro has one. So I think there's almost 10 climbing gyms in Arkansas. Most of them majority of them are in the Northwest Arkansas area.
But it's continuing to grow.
Yep, it is continuing to grow. More people are finding climbing, definitely.
Awesome. Well, Andrew and Jane, thank you so much for being with us and for telling us more about the Arkansas Climbers Coalition. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.